Halloween! This is the perfect place for me. Halloween, Creative Mornings, I love it. I'm so honored and thankful to be here. Nashville, I moved back from Nashville to Nashville in January. I lived in New York for, 6 years. And I tell you what, Nashville is a different place now, is it? Yes. Right? There's a lot of creative shit happening here, which is awesome. So anyway, my name is Chris Thompson. I go by Chris a lot. And if you haven't noticed, Chris Thompson is kind of one of those hard names to own. There's a million of us, right? I used to say that, my whole name, Christopher Brian Thompson, was a long way to spell vanilla. So, I go by what started as a gamer tag on Xbox Live, I've kind of embraced, right? And I've kind of grown into this thing. And, it felt funny at first, like everything, but then as you start walking into it, it starts to feel like you own it. Let's see, let me click off this slide here. There we go. So today, I'm going to talk to you about shock, but before I get into it, I think there's something that I need to do. And that is, it takes a Herculean effort to put this stuff together every month, right? I mean, there's a lot of time. I was here yesterday and they were setting up, and through the volunteers and everybody who does this, and there's one person that comes to mind. Liz from Adobe walked in and she goes, "This place is great. How did you get it?" I was like, "I don't know." It's Alicia. She is a force to be reckoned with. And without her team of volunteers who are so dedicated, this stuff would not happen. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much, guys. So anyway, there's a couple other people. I have two lovely assistants today. Please stand up, Aubrey and Katie. Come on. These are two of my students from Watkins. Today I'm going to be calling on you. I talked with Alicia. She said, let's make this thing a little more interactive. So, I may call you out. And I'm going to ask you a question that is unanswerable, I promise. But if you're nice to me, you get a t-shirt. Show me a t-shirt. You got a good one. There you go. We hand-printed some t-shirts for you, so some of them are a little off, but don't worry about it. They're artisanal. And then I've got a bunch of students from Watkins. Everybody raise your hand. Right? We got some new blood in the house. Right? Everybody come talk to these people. They are some smart motherfuckers. Right? You want to talk to interesting people, so talk to them. And I would be remiss without thanking my wife. Where are you, wife? There she is. She is the brave to my crazy. And that's how 16 years works. It's been a roller coaster, hasn't it? All right, Dan's here, my curriculum director. Where are you, Dan? Thank you for bringing the troops today. And then I also want to say thanks to Drew at Grand Palace because he printed a fucking kick-ass poster out there. Make sure you get one and put it in a black light. Hang it over your bed with a black light. That'd be awesome. All right, so shock. They asked me to speak about shock today. It's kind of the national theme for this month. And here's the deal about shock, man. It's got a whole lot of intellectual baggage that it brings with it. I'm sure people look at this like, oh, shock. What's he going to shock me, right? Some of my first drafts, asked Alicia, were of using images from porn. and just, photoshopping out the penises and putting something else in, right? But, it's kind of easy to shock, right? To show you something that's, offensive or inappropriate, which is my actual middle name, by the way. Chris Inappropriate Thompson. Just ask my students. But, to shock you, I could just get up here and say fuck a million times, right? Like a performance piece. But the problem is, shock, when it's empty, is pointless, right? You guys will leave here unchanged. And that is not my goal today. I'm not even going to show you any of my work today. Today is about you. Right? I'm going to put forth some ideas. And mainly, the biggest one is, I think if you have a true, authentic voice and you put it in your work, it's going to be real easy to shock people. Not because you're being offensive, right? But because you're offering something of yourself. Some piece of real you that's in the work out in front of somebody. I think that kind of work is shocking. It's an authentic voice out to your audience. It's refreshing and it's empowering because they say, that person who made that is a person just like me. So, I think the most shocking thing I can do today is give you my own perspective. Right? If it weren't named shock, I would call this talk blasphemy. Because I'm going to tell you some things today that kind of that are counter of what maybe you were taught in school, or at least how the convention of real life works. Pay our bills, we got to do all these rote things. The way we've been trained. And, I think the best way to be an artist is to kind of unlearn some of that stuff. So, I'm going to tell you things like that. So I think, before we get started, I think this would be appropriate, just for the safety of everybody. The views presented here are my own, and do not represent, nor are they to be interpreted or represent the views, comments, or positions of Creative Mornings. There you go, Alicia. You're off the hook. So here's the truth. I grew up around here. I spent most of my early career practicing graphic design here in this town. I worked for agencies. I worked for a lot of different stuff. Did it on my own. And I was never really satisfied with the work I was doing. At best, I would just imitate what I saw in design manuals. I had no idea about voice, about style, or even about concept. I could recognize when there was a good one, but I had no idea kind of the dynamics or the anatomy of formulating concepts. There was just something I knew that I didn't know. You just don't know what you don't know, and I knew I needed to act. And so, I was practicing here, and I was unsure, not confident, and very frustrated. Right? And then one day, I was listening to the Writer's Almanac. Anybody listen to that? Nobody? Garrison, he does. Give him a shirt. He's shaking his head. There's your hand. Give him a shirt. All right. Get him one.
What kind do you want? Athletic build.
I got big guns. So I came across this quote by Sharon Holmes. It was her birthday on the Writer's Almanac. And Garrison Keillor read this in his great voice, and I said, I will give up all I've learned here if I could just write my own poems. And I don't care if they're good. I just want to write my own stuff. And I was like, yes! That is what I want, right? I don't care if somebody says they like my work. I say that, right? How do you know if it works good? Who tells you? Who tells you it works good?
Your heart.
Who said that? There you go. Give him a t-shirt, girls. He's back there. So anyway, yes, you decide if your work is good, and that's it. All right, where was it? So anyway, that quote to me was very empowering because it gave my feelings validity because there was somebody else out there in the world that felt the same way I did. Right? It gave me power. It changed me that day. And my wife and I were in Hawaii on a vacation, and she was doing a shoot. And, she was an art director at the time for Lifeway. And I remember we were waiting in the parking lot at the airport, the sun was coming down in Hawaii, and I got this pain in my stomach. I was like, I don't want to go back. Right? I don't want to go back and do what we're doing. And I asked her, I said, if you could live anywhere and do anything, would it be where we're living and what we're doing? And she said no. And so 6 months later, we quit. We just stopped. And I went back to school because I didn't know what else to do, right? So I went to school following this voice. I just wanted to make my own work. And while I was in school, as I was kind of reaching out and kind of trying to learn new things, I heard about this designer named James Victori. And immediately, once I saw his work, my heart leapt, right? And I said, this guy is doing the smartest, best graphic design in the world, and I have to meet him. And I heard that he was coming to talk at our school, and so I weaseled my way in, right? I was like, hi, how you doing, James? Shook his hand, tried to talk to him, and guess what? He hated me, man. No, I'm just kidding. No, we hit it off. Right? We hit it off. And I learned something that day. You know, the people who make work that move you, right? That make your soul just jump, those are your people. You have a connection to them. So reach out to them. Because more than likely, you're going to get along. There's something that connects, right? In your soul. So anyway, I loved his work. And when I finished school, I kept in touch with him, and I wrote to him, and I said, you know, I'm graduating, I'm looking for a place to land. And he wrote me back, and he said, well, I run a pirate ship. I only pay in pizza and beer. And he says, if you should find yourself in New York, you know, come see me. And so I read that email as, baby, get ready. We're going to New York. And so we sold everything, emptied out our bank account to get our first place. I mean, we went all in. Everything. We had it all on the line. We were up there, had no idea how we were going to do anything. James didn't promise me any money. We had no idea how we were going to even pay our bills, right? And so I remember I showed up on James's doorstep like a baby in a basket. I'm like, here I am. And what was great was his first words to me as he opened the door, he goes, oh, I forgot you were coming today. I mean, I had it all on the line, and that's what he said. I was like, okay, fuck it, man, let's go. So we went in there. As luck would have it, Time Magazine called that day, and we did a nice cover. We had to kind of bust our ass, because when Time calls, you basically get 2 or 3 days to work on a cover. And, they usually shop it. They'll hire 3 or 4 designers, and, you just kind of give it your best guess, and then they pick the one that they want, and then everybody else gets a kill fee. But anyway, so we submitted, and we won. It was great. It was actually the Halloween issue a couple years ago, or 5 years ago now. But we developed this we noticed that we had a nice working relationship. So I worked with him for about 4 years. And the first 2 years of me kind of showing up and kind of working with him, it was my job. His studio was awesome. We just has a one workstation. And then in this kind of Brooklyn kind of crappy kind of chic thing that's going on, big open studio with one big table in it. And I remember for the first 2 years, I sat across from him and tried to beat him. And I would work hard, conceptually, just trying to figure things out, bang my head against the table, just trying to make work that I thought would win the job, right? That I could do better than him. And he handed me my ass for 2 years. But I just kept at it, and I kept watching him. He instructed me a little, but mainly I was in this environment, I got to see how he worked. I got to see how he lived his life, how he made decisions. And I realized one day that design is not about arranging objects to where it looks good. Design is about all the other cool shit in life that we experience, like jazz and funny cars, right? Loss, heartbreak, all that cool stuff. Your opinion, right? Whatever pisses you off. And as soon as I got that little thing in my spirit, my work changed. And that's when I started to beat him. Right? So that's at the crux of what I want to talk to you today. Graphic design is just a tool. That's it. I think it's a club with spikes on it. That's what kind of tool I think it is. But it's just a tool. How many of you are graphic designers here today? Raise your hand. Awesome. How many of you think that we operate in a visual field? Raise your hand. See, I don't believe that. I believe we work in an intellectual field. It's not about what it looks like. It's about what it says. Right? Just like art or dance, these are just tools that we employ. Graphic design and all this stuff is like ringing a glass at a fancy dinner party, right? When you do that, what happens? What do you got to do? You got to talk. What else? Everybody gets quiet. Everybody looks at you. Yeah? You better have something fucking good to say. Right? You can't just say, how about that cheese? Right? Come on. Have something to say. So, these tools that we employ, they need a soul to run them. They need a human being behind them with passions and convictions and opinions and all of this cool stuff. Somebody that has a zest for life behind them. And that's how you can really shock in today's world, I think. Say something and put it in your work. And how do you do that? To me, I think it's this. Be an interesting person. It's very simple. Interesting people make interesting work. That's it. Easy. It's very hard, but easy. But I think I broke it down. I think I've cracked the code here. I think I have 3 steps that'll help you out. Let's see if my slides are right. Number 1, live your life. If there is no life in your life, there will never be any life in your work, ever. Right? Period. And, I've been teaching for a while. I taught at the School of Visual Arts. I teach at Watkins now. James and I did a bunch of workshops, like dinner series, and Take This Job and Love It. And I think at the crux of everything I've ever learned teaching someone is if they have issues with their creativity, they have those same reflected issues in their life. Right? Early on in every class that I teach, I ask my students about what they do in their free time, especially on the weekends, right? I ask you guys, yeah? They don't know it, but I have a trick to this. It tells me something about them. It tells me if they take risks, if they're brave, and how much they play, right? Because play is the most important thing. Play is 90% of this job. As an artist, as a musician, as a dancer, you have to play to get to a great creative spot. especially in graphic design. Look, when a client calls, you can't clench your butt cheeks, man. You can't get all tight, right? You've got to get to a place where you're like, oh, you know what we should do? We should do this. And then your work partner says, no. What we got to do is this. And then you go back and it's like, no. We got to do this. And when you get to that point, that's what you do. Right? That's how you make. Because if you're not interested in your own work, who the hell else is going to be? Right? Nobody. All right. So anyway, the whole point of this is I encourage my students to play. I don't care if you're a good designer, artist, whatever. You can't be one without play. And you need all the things, all the shit that play gets you into, right? You know, the love, the heartache, sexual excitement, right? Getting in trouble, getting arrested. The first week I worked with James, we found ourselves both on the hood of a police car, getting frisked. And he looked at me like, dude, we're going to jail. And then he said to me, he was like, why are you smiling? And I was like, dude, I'm here with my freaking mentor. We're about to get arrested. This is great. But no, you got to do all this stuff. It takes all of these, experiences in life, and they get in your work, and all of a sudden your work is powerful, and it's meaningful, and it's awesome. And that's what you want. A life without edge isn't worth living. Everybody needs a little edge. Right? Come on. And the truth is, playing it safe doesn't serve you. It doesn't. And I'm not saying, go quit your job. But the problem with living in your comfort zone is the more things that you put in it, the smaller it gets. We put our house payment in our comfort zone, and we put our relationships in our comfort zone, and we put our careers in this little cozy comfort zone, right? And it gets smaller and smaller. And what happens is it cripples us. We get so scared to step out of line, we don't even step at all. Paul Arden called it protecting our mortgages. We used to call it in the studio the golden handcuffs. Right? You're scared to lose. Don't be scared to lose. And, I'm not talking about irresponsibility here. I'm not saying quit your job, although probably some of you in this room should. I'm saying follow your interests, your passions, the things that excite you, and make room for them in your life. Allow them to live. You don't have to make a radical change like I did, although some of you should. But let it live, man. There's a scripture in the Bible I like to talk about a lot. It says, God gives you the desires of your heart. And most people misread that, I think. Because they say, well, if I'm good and I follow the rules and I want a BMW, God's going to give me a BMW. I don't think that's right. I think those things that are inside you, that mission in life that you feel like you need to do, those burning desires in your heart that you need to achieve in your work, I think those are the things that God gave you to do. And I think to deny those things, to deny your voice, to quiet those, and not fully live your life is completely irresponsible. Just in exchange for a paycheck. Because the problem with a paycheck is, if all you look for is a paycheck, that's all you're ever going to get. And there's so much more. In our broke days, and we still have a few sometimes, people ask me how I'm doing. I say, I'm rich in every way but one. Right? And what happens is, you're saying, but Chris, shouldn't I have a paycheck? Shouldn't I, do these responsible things? And I think really the problem there is should. We allow other people to should all over us. And then we also learn from them, and then we start shoulding all over ourselves, right? Get rid of that should. It's oppressive. Learn to sniff that word out. So, everybody's path is different. That's what it is. We all have different ways to go. I personally was a late bloomer. Some of these students, I envy them because they're very young and are already smarter than I was at their age. But here's some ancient wisdom. Rumi says, forget safety, live where you fear to live, destroy your reputation, be notorious. This is the way I look at it. I'm almost there. Almost. Here's another one. Rilke says, let everything happen to you, both beauty and terror. Right? Experience this wide gamut of life. The bad shit, the good shit. Everybody says, no, I'll take the good shit. Don't give me the bad shit. No, the bad shit is actually better than the good shit because you grow and you learn and you experience all the stuff that changes you. Nobody really gets changed from good shit. Everybody gets changed from the bad shit. Right? So, and the last point I want to make with living your life is who, out of all of us, who on our deathbed is going to ask someone, bring me my credit report. Show me my bank accounts. What's the balance? Oh, yeah. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody. All right. So live your life. Stay informed. Number 2. Stay informed. I also ask my students about what's going on in the news, don't I? Not anymore, but I used to. Want to know if they're paying attention. Stay informed. The first thing you can do to stay informed is question everything. And I got news for you. Start with your own beliefs first. There's nothing more uninteresting than being at a dinner party who just questions everything you're saying but never questions their own beliefs. It's horrible. I want smart people. I want to be around smart people who have questioned and really thought about what they believe. Another thing is TV. Be wary. Question what they're saying on TV. TV, it's called programming for a reason. Right? Are they telling the truth? Are they lying? Why would they lie? Think about it. All right, another way to stay informed is find your people. I stay informed pretty much through Facebook because, I'm just friends with some smart motherfuckers who put stuff up all the time, and they keep me informed. And that's not the point. Let's have interesting people on Facebook. But the point is to surround yourself with people smarter than you. I get nervous if I'm the smartest person in the room. I really do. I want to be around people that I can learn from all the time. Those people are called medicine. There are people in your life, and you guys probably know them, that give you energy. They give you creative energy. You have more access to all this cool shit, and you come up with better things around them, right? They feed you. Those people are medicine. On the other side, there are people who shut you down, that stifle you, say, oh, that'll never happen. Limit those people, right? You can't get rid of them, but limit their access to your life. Don't allow them to speak into you. And the last part about staying informed is become sensitive, right? I remember working with James, and I would, do some layouts on the computer, and he'd come back, and he'd be like, dude, that type is way too big. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to do? He's like, bring it down at least a point size. I'm like, a point size is way too big, right? Are you kidding me? But no, it made me feel like a freaking stooge. It was like, I just felt like this clumsy graphic designer around him because he was way so sensitive, and I was just wonky, right? So become sensitive, not only to proportion and things like that in graphic design and your art or whatever, but, pay attention to how shadows look, the things on your walk into work sometimes, like how the light shines against a brick wall kind of looks like type, or how you misread a sign and it's like, oh, I thought it said this, and it was way more interesting when you miscombobulated it in your head. Pay attention to that stuff. Become sensitive, right? So, you live your life, you stay informed, and now you have a great base to have an opinion. Opinion matters. About politics, sure. But what are you going to do with graphic design? What are you going to do with art? What are you going to do with music? What are you going to do with dance? Your tool of trade that you're using, what are you going to do with it? That's your opinion. It's my opinion. You saw my stuff. I work in whiteout and paint pens sometimes, most of the time, because it just makes me happy. Invest your work, yourself, your whole life in a stance that you believe in, and use it to formulate how you make work, right? Because when you say something and you totally invest in it, let me see, where is it? No, I have an opinion. I put it in the wrong spot. Yes, you make unique work because it's you. It's your life experiences, right? Now let me skip back here. There we go. I'm ruining jokes here. So what are my opinions? I believe that graphic design should look like a human person made it. I believe that it should be personal, it should be full of opinions, and it should be you. I'm so sick of seeing this polite, limp graphic design. I want graphic design with teeth. You know, Robert Frost said about his poetry, he said, I want to make poems that are barbed, meaning they stick with you. That's what I want to make. I want to make work that people want to steal, right? That's what I want. So, and you know, I always get this from my students. They always say, but who am I to have an opinion? And I'm sure we all feel it. It's kind of false humility. And the way I look at it, and I say this to them every time, I say, it's your fucking job. Ayn Rand wrote in the preface of Fountainhead, she wrote that it's the role of every artist to influence culture in the way they think it should go. Marshall McLuhan in Understanding Media wrote, the artists of our generation are the prophets. We influence culture, right? William James says something like this. He said, the greatest thing about humanity is we can change our reality just by changing our perspective. That's what we do. We change perspective. If I can change your perspective, I change your reality. And if I can change your reality, I've done something, right? We influence culture. We move audiences in a direction. And you can lead by putting out smart, funny, intelligent work. And what happens? What happens, Drew? People aspire to it, right? Or we can pander to the lowest among us, and then what happens? Anybody? People ignore it. Anybody else? Brings us all down. It dumbs us down. And that's the biggest thing that I have about, since I'm talking about my opinion, that's the biggest thing I have. That's my biggest critique about the advertising industry in this country, because they spend billions of dollars a year to influence culture just to merely sell socks. And they're held not accountable for the changes that they make in culture because Totinos want you to live free and couch hard. No, don't couch hard. I promise you, if you couch hard, 10 years you're going to regret it. All right, where am I? All right, so advertising. Totinos, have an opinion. What's really great is I was going through these slides in class the other day, and they're like, Chris, opinion only has one P. Right? And throughout my whole talk, I had 2 P's in fucking opinion. I had to go back and do all those slides. So I thought about it, and my opinion is the more passionate your opinion is, the more P's should be in there. Damn it. So, you take these 2 things, and there's my bad slide out of place. You take all this stuff, we're doing a little bit of math here, so come on. Hang with me. You take all this stuff, and what does it equal? It equals hard nipples, right? Live your life, stay informed, have an opinion, all of a sudden you got hard nipples, man. You're an interesting person. Congratulations. You're there, right? You've got your own point of view. Now do something with it. Why is being an important person or an interesting person so important? Because in the particular lies the universal. Most people think if you want to speak to the largest crowd, you have to make the most generic message. Right? Empty, whatever, doesn't mean anything. I don't believe that way. I believe that the more particular, the more specific, the more meaningful your message, the more heartfelt, the more vulnerable, the more you're going to reach more people. Why? Because life is universal, man. We're all living it. Being a human being is universal. James Joyce, in the book Dubliners, he wrote about his hometown. But because he did such a good job, he wrote about my hometown and your hometown. Because why? Life is universal. Besides that, an authentic voice, if you use an authentic voice and you talk to your audience, they hunger for an authentic voice. Because our BS meters they have a hair trigger anymore, right? We can sense it a mile away. If I came up here and just tried to bullshit you guys, you wouldn't listen. Be like, he's just doing a thing. He's doing a shtick. He's trying to sell me something, right? We're immune, man. We see it advertising all the time. And, we're so used to the stench of professional lingo. It's boring. It's empty. It's crap, right? We see it a mile away. But the great part about having an authentic human voice is that it's contagious. The freer you are in your work, the freer you allow me to be. The freer I am in my work, the freer I give you permission to do it, right? The more vulnerable you are in your work, the more I feel like I can relate to you. I know you. You're a human being. So personal, vulnerable, real is what we want. So, I have a vision for Nashville. What was great, when I left Nashville about 7 years ago, it was a place when you told somebody your dream, they would say, that'll never happen. And then when I moved to New York, I would tell somebody my dream, and they're like, yeah, that sounds cool. I know this person, right? Now I'm back, and a lot has changed. People now have that new attitude. They're like, yeah, you want to do that? Me too. Let's do it. Oh, I know this person. You can make that happen. Let's go. Right? It's a great place. Right now, Nashville, there's so much great stuff happening. I see this new blank canvas rising out of Nashville right now. I've got a friend of mine in L.A. that, he's tired of the expensive poverty that is L.A. and New York, right? And he's thinking about going small town or whatever. And he was real interested in kind of my transition here because, I just moved back in January. And I said, yeah, man, there's a lot of shit happening. It's really great. And I told him, it's like there's this new blank canvas thing. And I said, the great part is we can make it whatever we want. But the scary part is that it's up to us. It's up to me. It's up to you. We have to fucking do it. Right? It can scare the shit out of you. But my goal for Nashville, and Kat and I were having coffee the other day. Kat's goal for Nashville, she's a great musician. If you don't know her, you should talk to her. She's awesome. I think Nashville could be this awesome place for experimental design, experimental art. This Nashville could be a place for creative freedom. And that's my goal. That's my vision. That's what I want to see happen here. But I need your help. Right? It's not just me. It's you. What's your name? Michelle. The world needs more Michelle. Right? They need to hear your voice. What's your name right there? Yep. Keisha. The world needs more Keisha. That's right. Come on. Thank you. Come on, the world needs us, man. They need people who are going to influence culture in a positive direction, right? With freedom and integrity and passions and desires. People who with a heart, right? That's what this world needs. So anyway, I think I've got one more. Hopefully my thing's in the right order here. But this is a little video that, James and I made for School of Visual Arts a couple years ago, but I think it's fitting, so I'm going to go ahead and play it. And I'm just going to let you guys watch.
Your work is a gift. This is a radical idea because it changes how you think about your work. It changes why you work, what you make, and even who you work for. When your work is a gift, your goal is no longer to satisfy a client or boss, or even to gain a paycheck. You now work to make yourself happy, and in turn speak directly to your audience, because you now give them something of value, a piece of yourself. Your work, your voice, unrestrained and pure, has the power to entertain, to enlighten, and to move others. Your work is a gift, and the world is waiting for it.
That's it. That's all I'm going to tell you today. This thing that I like to teach is more about, it's not just about kind of graphic design, it's about kind of structuring your life around, tweaking your life to where you can kind of get to this place of freedom, because it's not just about, let's just start out taking risks. It's really hard to do that. So this is a class that I'm starting out of my own studio coming up in January, and I'm calling it the Church of Conceptology. And it's designed really for, what I'm looking for here are people who've been practicing their careers for a couple of years, maybe even 10, like I did, and then they're just frustrated. They don't know how to find their voice. They don't know how to find their style. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. If you're interested, you can email me. I'll have my information up. Tuesday night, Makers Club. A friend of mine, Ben Berry, he started one of these in San Francisco, and then he brought it to New York, and that's where I participated. And when I moved down to Nashville, I had a conversation with him, and he was like, dude, why don't you bring this down to Nashville? And so I was like, that sounds great. Let's do it. So it's going to be our first meeting. We're going to meet the first Tuesday of every month. I think I'm going to have class next year, but I'll find somebody. Dan can fill in for me, run it. But anyway, what we're going to do is, all it is people who make things for a living getting together for drinks. There's no agenda here except world domination. That's it. So, I need to tell you where it is. It's 5 to 7, Mickey's, I always say Mickey's Tavern, 5 to 7, and you can find more about it. I did a little, club page or whatever the hell it is on Facebook, so you can join there. For some reason, though, you have to get permission. I don't know how to do that, how to, deactivate getting permission. So if anybody knows how to do that, come see me afterward. And then that's it. Thank you, guys.
Stick around.
Oh, yeah. Are we going to do questions?
So, man, thank you. That was informative and inspiring and just well done in every way. And I know that people may have a few questions, so we like to do a couple of those so we can hear maybe 3 more minutes of Chris. We are a little over time, so if you don't have 5 minutes, you can sneak out. We trust you. You have great reasons. You're yourself.
Oh, yeah, and if you ask me a question, you get a T-shirt.
Nice.
And if you want a T-shirt, I guess we have plenty, because that didn't go so well. You can just come up and talk to Aubrey or Katie. They are very interesting people. Have a conversation with them and get a T-shirt.
So any questions about life or yourself?
Yes,
That'd
sir.
be brave.
No. No. I wasn't, I always kind of wanted to be that way, but I never knew how. And that's what led that frustration. Like I said, I was a shitty graphic designer for a long time. I just didn't know how to be authentic at all. Going to New York is what kind of opened everything up for me, just taking this huge risk and kind of just saying, whatever, man. It was just kind of abandoning everything that I was keeping safe in my life that really kind of helped. Yeah.
When you speak about comfort zone, what specific parts of your life were in that?
Oh, I battle with it. Look, the things that I talked about are the things that I deal with daily. It never goes away. The struggle is always there. So, comfort zone, just the things that I talk to you about. I mean, even my wife and I, we're trying to put stuff in the comfort zone every day. It's like, okay, we got these bills. How are we going to pay them? Let's get something going on to where we can get these things to pay. But you can't make creative decisions and you can't make career decisions based on that. That's all. It's like, okay, you know what? We'll figure out a way. We're at the end of the year. She shoots all year, and end of the season, she goes, well, we made this much money. We have this much left. And it's like, okay, well, we'll get through it. It'll be fine. So, stupidity. You can't say enough about stupidity and stubbornness. That's what you need. Yes, sir.
As an instructor, what do you find is your biggest obstacle for instruction?
Attitude. And I listen, I like my students to be full of piss and vinegar. I want them to have an opinion. I want them to be assertive. But, attitude, it comes to like laziness, I think, is probably one of the biggest, I totally lost my shit in class on Wednesday about just, people not wanting to redo things and stuff. And I could get into that whole diatribe right now, but I won't. So yeah. Yes, ma'am. How do I stay inspired? Oh, that's a good question. Look around a little bit, but kind of more anymore. It starts like, as with my students, I always tell them, you're only as good as what you're looking at. So don't just look at graphic design. Look at fine art. Find the people out there that are doing the things that make inspire you, right? So I look around a little bit, and I've got a nice group of friends who are just freaking hotheads and making some great work, and really, my inspiration anymore is when I see them kicking ass. It just, puts a fire in my belly. I'm like, you can't do, I want to do that fucking good. It's like, I think the best compliment I can ever give somebody is when I look at their work and I say, I fucking hate you. Right? That's kind of what keeps. It's a little bit of competition, but mostly, there's something in me that just wants to keep pushing and doing what I want. That's kind of it. Yes, ma'am. Personal rituals or what else? Methods when I'm in a rut. A nap. No, sometimes you just don't have it, right? You just don't have it. I think, part of being a pro is understanding if you sit down in front of somewhere, and I know some of you guys are on the clock and you have to just produce. But for me, I've kind of gotten to the point in my life to where I just know when I'm just going to be spinning my wheels, and so then I'll just, go fuck off, really. Or take a nap. Like like when I worked with James, we did all of our studio work from 11 to 2. And any concepting we did, we would take it to a restaurant and go have, some nice wine and we'd go to a place that had the nice big white paper on the tables, and we would just fill it up with drawings, and we would just play with ideas back and forth until we got to a place, and then we just rip that part off and take it home. So, if you're in a creative rut, I think the best thing to do is change your environment.
One more?
Okay, who? There are multiple. Okay, Chris, you raised your hand earlier. I think you should pay attention to everything and then forget it, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But, put it in your brain and then just not think about it, because I think the creative life, I think, really involves the subconscious in a very dramatic way. I don't even it works. In fact, like there are projects to where I start in a direction. I'm like, I don't even get this direction, and I go that way, and then it makes total sense at the end for some reason. So I think pay attention to everything. I don't think there's anything you should really ignore, but and then just kind of be kind of loose and internalize it, and don't think about it that much. Okay.
Thank you, Chris, and then 2 announcements. Thank you, man.
Cool. Awesome.